In a significant diplomatic exchange on the third anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin reaffirmed their commitment to a no-limits partnership between their nations. This phone call, initiated by Putin, comes at a time when relations between Moscow and Washington appear to be warming, sparking interest in the implications for global geopolitics. During the lengthy discussion, she described China and Russia as true friends who have supported one another through challenges. He emphasized that their relationship possesses strong endogenous momentum and unique strategic value, and asserted that their cooperation would continue to thrive regardless of external pressures. She stated China-Russia relations will move forward calmly in spite of international vicissitudes, contributing to each other's development and revitalization and injecting stability and positive energy into international relations. This sentiment underscores the strategic alignment between the two nations, particularly as they navigate a complex global landscape marked by rising tensions with the West. The call also served as a platform for Xi to express approval of Russia's recent diplomatic engagements with the United States, indicating China's willingness to assist in fostering dialogue aimed at resolving the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. She stated China is pleased to see that Russia and relevant parties have made positive efforts to resolve the crisis. This aligns with China's broader approach, which includes the formation of a Friends of Peace group to promote initiatives aimed at ending the war. The timing of this communication is notable, occurring alongside a visit by numerous European and Canadian leaders to Kiev, which was intended to demonstrate solidarity with Ukraine. This juxtaposition highlights the divergent paths of international diplomacy regarding the conflict. While Western nations continue to support Ukraine against Russian aggression, China has positioned itself as a key ally for Moscow, particularly following the imposition of Western sanctions that have pushed Russia deeper into dependency on Chinese resources and technology. Analysts observe that the Xi-Putin dialogue may also be a strategic response to former U.S. President Donald Trump's attempts to recalibrate American relations with Russia. Trump's recent overtures to Putin have raised the stakes, as they may be perceived as an effort to drive a wedge between China and Russia. However, experts argue that the deep-rooted ties between Beijing and Moscow are unlikely to fray, especially given their shared ideological opposition to U.S. hegemony. Sergei Radchenko, a scholar specializing in Chinese-Russian relations, noted their strategic and geopolitical alignment for this relationship. They don't see eye to eye on everything, but I think they both realize they need each other. Looking ahead, Xi is expected to visit Moscow in May to commemorate the Soviet victory over Nazi Germany during World War II, a trip that will reinforce the ongoing collaboration between the two nations. As the geopolitical landscape continues to evolve, the enduring alliance between China and Russia may serve as a stabilizing force, complicating Western efforts to isolate either nation. The implications of this partnership will undoubtedly shape the contours of international relations in the months and years to come. In a significant diplomatic exchange that underscores the shifting dynamics of global power, Chinese President Xi Jinping recently commended Russia's positive efforts to defuse the ongoing Ukraine crisis during a phone conversation with Russian President Vladimir Putin. This dialogue, which took place as Ukraine marks 3 years since the onset of conflict, highlights the growing ties between Beijing and Moscow amidst geopolitical tensions. According to state media reports from Xinhua, Xi expressed satisfaction with Russia's initiatives aimed at resolving the crisis, stating, "China is happy to see Russia and relevant parties make positive efforts to defuse the situation in Ukraine." This statement comes at a time when many NATO members have accused China of being an enabler of Russia's actions, given Beijing's refusal to condemn Moscow's military intervention. The conversation also served as a platform for both leaders to discuss the recent high-level talks between Russian and U.S. officials in Saudi Arabia, the first such meeting since the conflict began. The Kremlin noted that Putin updated Xi on these discussions, and the Chinese side reiterated its support for continued dialogue between Russia and the United States, expressing readiness to assist in seeking a peaceful resolution to the conflict. The strong personal rapport between Xi and Putin has been a focal point of their interactions, with Xi referring to Putin as his best friend. This camaraderie is seen as a stabilizing element in their comprehensive partnership, emphasizing the strategic cooperation between the two nations. She stated, "History and reality affirm that China and Russia are good neighbors and true friends, a sentiment that resonates with their mutual interests in countering Western influence." As the world watches the developments in Ukraine, the implications of this Sino-Russian alliance are profound. Not only do they challenge the Western-led order, but they also suggest a reconfiguration of global power dynamics. Since the onset of the Ukraine conflict, Beijing has fortified its military and trade ties with Moscow, portraying itself as a neutral party while benefiting from the circumstances that have isolated Russia economically and politically. In conjunction with these international developments, she has also been vocal about his domestic agenda, emphasizing the importance of prioritizing the well-being of the Chinese people. His governance philosophy intertwines with the ongoing global situation as he seeks to ensure that China's modernization efforts translate into tangible benefits for its 1.4 billion citizens. Recent discussions at the upcoming Two Sessions China's annual political event will focus on grassroots development, innovation, and social stability, all vital components of Xi's vision for a prosperous future. As the situation evolves, the interplay between China's diplomatic overtures and its internal priorities will be closely scrutinized. The international community, particularly the United States and its allies, will be watching how these relationships develop and what implications they may hold for global peace and security. With Xi's commitment to international cooperation, particularly in regions like Africa, the prospect of a more interconnected global landscape looms. One that could either facilitate cooperation or exacerbate existing tensions. In conclusion, as the Ukraine crisis continues to unfold, the relationship between China and Russia is poised to play a crucial role in shaping not only the resolution of this conflict but also the broader geopolitical landscape. The coming months will likely reveal whether their partnership can indeed foster stability or whether it will lead to further discord in an already fragmented world order. As global economic tensions escalate, the interplay between U.S. tariffs and China's manufacturing dominance has emerged as a pivotal concern for analysts and policymakers. In a recent commentary, Brad Setzer, a former senior U.S. Treasury official and current fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations, warns that while President Donald Trump's tariffs have generated considerable chaos, it is the strategic economic policies of China's President Xi Jinping that could pose a more significant threat to the global economy. Setzer's assessment highlights a critical imbalance in international trade, particularly in the context of China's burgeoning economic footprint. In an editorial for the New York Times, he stated, "While Trump's tariffs have undoubtedly stirred confusion, it is Xi's calibrated industrial policies that may ultimately distort global trade more severely." This perspective underscores a growing apprehension that China's trade practices are not just a challenge to U.S. interests but are reshaping the foundations of global commerce. The statistics are telling. Setzer points to a staggering disparity in trade dynamics. Over the past 6 years, China's imports have barely increased by $15 billion annually, contrasted by a $150 billion surge in exports. He remarked, "When it comes to manufactured goods, trade with China is virtually a one-way street." This one-sided trade has significant implications for economies like Japan and Germany, which are finding themselves increasingly vulnerable as Chinese products flood international markets. Setzer attributes this phenomenon to China's post-2008 financial crisis strategy, which favored investment in exports over domestic consumption. China alone has the capacity to produce two-thirds of the world's demand for cars, he noted, emphasizing the country's control over critical industrial inputs. As a result, nations reliant on Chinese goods may find themselves at the mercy of Beijing's political and economic maneuvers. While Trump's tariffs were intended to counteract these issues, Setzer argues that they are not a panacea. He cautions tariffs could exacerbate the situation as the unpredictability of Trump's trade policies complicates global adjustments. In his analysis, the clash between the two leaders, Trump's often erratic approach and Xi's more systematic vision, could spell trouble for the global economy. In light of these developments, the conversation around China's economic strategy is intensifying. President Xi recently articulated a vision for bolstering the private sector, declaring at a symposium, "In this new era, private enterprise has broad prospects." This statement, while aimed at fostering domestic entrepreneurship, also reflects a nuanced understanding of the global economic landscape and its challenges. As the world watches closely, the question remains, how will these dynamics shape the future of international trade? With China's manufacturing capabilities continuing to expand and U.S. policies remaining unpredictable, the global economy is poised for a tumultuous period. The ongoing debate over tariffs and trade practices will likely influence not just bilateral relations but the broader economic framework in which nations operate. As Setzer aptly summarizes, between the two of them, the global economy is in for a rough ride. The coming months will be crucial in determining whether diplomatic avenues or further economic strife will define this complex relationship. In a rapidly evolving geopolitical landscape, recent developments signal a significant shift in military and foreign policy, particularly concerning U.S.-China relations and the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Amidst these changes, China has taken proactive measures to bolster its military readiness, while U.S. President Donald Trump's unexpected reversal of American policy towards Ukraine raises pivotal questions about the United States' commitment to Taiwan. China's military leadership has issued orders for a substantial overhaul, aimed at preparing for potential warfare. This initiative reflects an increasingly aggressive posture from Beijing, particularly regarding its territorial claims over Taiwan. The Chinese government is sending unmistakable signals that it is serious about its military modernization efforts, a move underlined by the expulsion of numerous military officials for corruption, including high-ranking executives from the Aviation Industry Corporation of China. The anti-corruption campaign, while ostensibly aimed at cleaning up graft within the military-industrial complex, also serves to consolidate President Xi Jinping's control over the armed forces amid a backdrop of rising tensions in the region. In tandem with these developments, Trump's recent comments on Ukraine have alarmed analysts and policymakers alike. The president's claims that Ukraine initiated the conflict and his suggestion that it may eventually fall under Russian influence have sparked fears that the U.S. could similarly abandon its commitments to Taiwan. Experts like Russell Seo, executive director of the Global Taiwan Institute, emphasize the precariousness of Taiwan's situation in light of Trump's unpredictable trajectory. Trump is too unpredictable, Seo warns, suggesting that such rhetoric could lead to significant apprehension within Taiwan regarding U.S. support. Furthermore, Trump's administration appears to be attempting to pivot its focus towards the Asia-Pacific region, with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth asserting that any reduction in support for Ukraine would serve to strengthen U.S. positioning against China. This strategy, however, is fraught with risk, as it may inadvertently embolden Beijing to test its ambitions in Taiwan. Analysts like Maya Nowens have expressed concern that while the U.S. may be shifting its attention, this could allow China to propagate a narrative of American unreliability as a partner. The implications of these geopolitical shifts are profound. A stronger Chinese military coupled with uncertainty regarding U.S. commitments presents a complex challenge for Taiwan, which has historically relied on American support for its defense. As Trump continues to reshape foreign policy, including his recent criticisms of Taiwan over semiconductor production, the island's leaders are left grappling with an increasingly volatile security environment. In summary, the intertwining of U.S. foreign policy, military readiness in China, and the ongoing situation in Ukraine creates a precarious balance that could have lasting implications. As both nations navigate this tense atmosphere, the world watches closely, anticipating how these developments will influence the future of international relations, particularly in the Asia-Pacific region. The unfolding narrative suggests that both China and the U.S. are poised for a strategic recalibration, with the potential for confrontation looming on the horizon. In a significant diplomatic exchange, Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin reaffirmed their commitment to long-term strategic ties during a phone conversation on February 24, 2025. This dialogue coincided with the third anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and comes at a time of evolving relations between Moscow and Washington. The call, reportedly initiated by Putin, highlights China's growing role in global diplomacy and its intention to maintain a close partnership with Russia amid shifting geopolitical dynamics. During the call, which was characterized as lengthy by state media, Putin briefed Xi on recent diplomatic engagements between Russia and the United States. Xi, in turn, expressed his support for these discussions while indicating China's readiness to facilitate a peaceful resolution to the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. According to the Kremlin, Xi emphasized that China and Russia are true friends who have stood by each other through challenges, underscoring the strong endogenous momentum and unique strategic value of their relationship. China-Russia relations will move forward calmly in spite of international vicissitudes, contributing to each other's development and revitalization and injecting stability and positive energy into international relations, she stated, reflecting a mutual commitment to long-term cooperation. This sentiment resonates with the broader context of rising tensions between the U.S. and Russia, which have seen an uptick in diplomatic activity, including recent high-level talks aimed at addressing the Ukraine crisis. The backdrop of these discussions involves an intensifying dialogue between Russian and U.S. officials, particularly in Saudi Arabia, signaling a potential thaw in relations. As both nations seek to restore operational functionality in their embassies, largely inactive since the onset of the war, there is a palpable urgency to address the humanitarian and geopolitical ramifications of the conflict. However, key stakeholders, including Ukraine and European nations, have expressed concerns about being sidelined in these negotiations. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi recently met with Ukrainian officials and reiterated China's balanced stance on the conflict. He highlighted the need for a political settlement that includes the perspectives of all relevant parties. Experts have lauded China's diplomatic efforts, suggesting that its proposals for resolving the conflict have gained traction as the global community recognizes the detrimental effects of a polarized geopolitical landscape. Zhang Hong, a scholar from the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, noted that the changing perceptions around China's role in the Ukraine crisis reflect a broader understanding that rigid Cold War mentalities hinder regional stability. Wang Shua, a professor of international relations, articulated that peace can only be achieved through dialogue, emphasizing China's ongoing commitment to facilitating discussions aimed at a diplomatic resolution. As the Ukraine conflict continues to evolve, the implications of the Xi-Putin call extend beyond bilateral relations. They signal a shift towards a multipolar world where China seeks to position itself as a key mediator. The upcoming months may reveal how effectively China can leverage its influence to foster dialogue between Russia and the West, particularly as global dynamics remain fluid. In conclusion, the reaffirmation of China-Russia ties amidst warming U.S. Russia relations illustrates a complex geopolitical landscape where alliances are being tested and redefined. The ongoing diplomatic engagements underscore the necessity for inclusive dialogue as all parties navigate the intricacies of international relations. As the situation unfolds, observers will be keenly watching to see how China's proactive stance shapes the future trajectory of peace efforts in Ukraine and its broader implications for global diplomacy.